Welcome to another edition of WestEdge Wednesday. These are so much fun for me because after living through WestEdge in November of 2025, Barker Hangar, Santa Monica, and working to present these programs, now I have a chance to go back and listen and give some additional thought. And you get to hear them again. So if you were there, you got to hear this. You get to hear what a remarkable program this is. But if you weren't there, you get to hear it. And I love that we're able to do this for you. And thank you to WestEdge. And we're able to do this for you courtesy of Pacific Sales, Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, and friends to designers and architects everywhere. What a remarkable company. So appreciative for their sponsorship of this. So appreciative to Kim Gordon of Kim Gordon Designs for her work on this incredible stage. Now, listen, you can't see it here, but if you do go and you want to see it, we have these in video format on YouTube. You can check those out. But if you're behind the wheel or you're walking or you're doing something else fun, maybe you're at the kids' soccer game and you can't watch it right now, you get to listen to it. So there you go. This one, super fun. Planting Roots. This program explores the skills and strategies every designer needs to craft their story, build a brand, and establish a foundation for long-term success. It's going beyond what schools often leave out. This panel delves into the essentials like contracts, intellectual property, brand messaging, and media outreach, and so much more that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Attendees got to hear, and now you get to hear, from trailblazers and leaders at the top of their fields who share how to gain visibility through publications, competitions, and partnerships, empowering designers to claim their voice and grow credible, authentic practices. This program is moderated by Cheryl Durst and features Keith Granet, Grant Kirkpatrick, Tom Stringer, and Lou Taylor. Just an incredible program with a who's who. I mean, this is a panel of highly distinguished professionals, and I love that we get to present this to you. So you're going to get to hear it and enjoy it all right after this. This was the second year that Pacific Sales, Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, sponsored and presented the theater at the WestEdge Design Fair. So appreciative to them. In addition to everything that they do for sponsorship, they also brought in partner Best Buy, partner Geek Squad, Hisense, and made possible a video wall to Kim Gordon's design that just, it made it pop. And I think that it's so important to understand that the most important word in design today is service. You know, product is important, price is important, selection is important, but service, stellar service, makes all the difference in the world. And if you're a designer, if you're in the trade, Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home has a simply remarkable trade program. Their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you've ever experienced before, you have a chance to earn 3% in Best Buy e-gift cards or 2.5% in a reward check for every qualified and delivered sale, in addition to trade pricing, exclusive offers, access to exclusive special events, so much more. I can't even tell you everything here. So make sure to check them out. Thank you, Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, for your sponsorship and partnership at the WestEdge Design Fair this year and for presenting WestEdge Wednesdays, which you're about to hear right now.
Got it. Thank you. I am super excited to kick this panel off and welcome my esteemed panelists. All right, so don't think we are the oddest looking Motown singing group ever. Do you sing? All right, okay, well then we won't do that. This panel is going to indulge in a little bit of left brain, right brain. We're actually going to be talking about the business of design with 4 incredible practitioners who own and run their own businesses. Cumulatively, I'm not sure how many years of experience we have here, but a lot of significant experience. And so I'm honored to be on a panel with Keith Granet, founder of Granet & Associates, and founder of Leaders of Design. Yeah? And Grant Kirkpatrick, who is the founding partner of KAA Design Group. Yay. Tom Stringer, my fellow Chicagoan, founder and president of Tom Stringer Design Partners, and Lewis Taylor, partner, director of finance and administration for Schaefer, I want to say it right, Buccellato. And we are going to jump in and get started. Right, you're right, you're exactly right with that. We're going to jump in because I am always fascinated by origin stories. What's the genesis? And so I want to ask each of the panelists, what got you here? How did you get started? What was your introduction into this incredible industry? So we're going to do a little bit of origin story right now. Do you want to kick us off? Okay.
How much time do we have? It's a long story. I would say that I started out wanting to be an architect, and then I did an internship at Gensler and realized that I wasn't that talented, and they don't make any money. Sorry, I know you guys do now. But for me, it was like finding my particular talent and knowing that I had an aptitude more for the business side than the design side. So I just sort of navigated in that direction, and from that have created 4 companies around that.
Fantastic. And you're the author of a book.
Of 3 books.
3 books.
Yeah. The latest one's The Business of Design.
Business of Design. Perfect.
Is that good enough?
That works.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. So I was 12 when my folks decided to remodel their house. And it was a small house, and they wanted to make it bigger for a growing family, and I just thought it was fascinating, concrete and wood and all of that. So there was a guy walking around with a roll of plans, and I said, "Who's that?" They said it was the architect, and I said, "Okay." So that was it. 12 years old, never looked back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And here we are on this beautiful stage.
There you go. Tom?
Pretty similar story. I have been a designer since I think I was probably 8 years old. Commandeering first my brother's train set and turning it into an urban planning experiment. Immediately tore apart my sister's dollhouse and redecorated it. And I've been on actually a very straight line trajectory ever since. So
There's nothing straight about that line.
thanks,
That was
Keith.
nicely done.
Stepped right into that.
So for my
There you go.
Your path is a bit different.
so my path is very different. I had design nowhere in my sights growing up. I went to school for finance, interned on Wall Street, graduated school 3 months before 9/11, and so went back to school, got a master's in accounting, worked in public accounting. Got a call from my brother one day out of the blue, and he said, "I'm working with Keith Granet. I'm working as a consultant, and something's funny with the books at the company I'm at." And I said to him, "I have a real job. I don't think I have time to come and check these things out," joking around. And it was interesting because it was the best decision I ever made to go and take a look at what was going on. A lot of people in this industry run into problems with their bookkeeping, and we found some improprieties. And I'm sure some people in the audience have had to experience that. And went there, figured it out, and it's been the best decision of my life because of all the people that I've gotten to meet and work with, and I don't regret a single second of it.
Yeah. So design came to you later in life.
I didn't even know what design was when I was in finance, studying finance, and it did come, and I have such an appreciation for it now, and I would say that this is probably, I've seen almost every industry through my years as an auditor going into companies, and this is absolutely the best industry to work in by far.
Yeah. Applause for that, for sure. Yep. I think that these stories will probably resonate with so many of you. Certainly a lot of people, won't even say find design. They gravitate towards design. Design found you. It starts at home. For so many designers, you just knew. For others, it comes at a later point in life. There are so many people, like you said, didn't even know what the word design meant, don't know what interiors might mean, wouldn't know what architecture might mean, but deep down inside that there's something along the lines that you want to do, to craft, to change, to make something or someplace better for other people. I think that's inherent in those who explore careers in design. And I am so sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Cheryl Durst. I'm the Executive Vice President and CEO of IIDA, the International Interior Design Association. Cardinal sin of a moderator is to never introduce oneself. There is a very large difference between more design professionals and managing a design practice. What do you wish more design professionals knew about owning a business? That part is important, but helping it thrive. Who wants to start? Go ahead.
You know, I guess I have a career because of that, right? So do I want them to learn anything? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
So the more you can understand that you're running a business, the better and the more freeing it is actually to be creative. Because if you have to worry about where payroll's coming from, or where rent's coming from, or where the next project's coming from, then you're not focused on design. So the more you put good systems in place, allows you to be more creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone?
And I think that the myth of you're going to work 80% in design when you establish your own firm and you're in charge is actually total myth. It's probably more 20 to 30% of your time is working in design and being creative, and the other 70 to 80% of the time is actually in designing a good business with procedures in place and a way to run your business effectively. And I think that's what most people underestimate more than anything. I think you guys have seen that as well.
Yeah.
I do think it's probably the smartest thing that I ever did in starting my business was bring in consultants to help me create a framework, kind of an architecture for the organization that I could hang on and that I could exist within, to allow me to understand where it was that I was going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll echo that. It's interesting. I've always talked about the 80-20 rule, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. 80% of the time, if you're an entrepreneur and you're running a business, you're running a business. Human resources, finance, marketing, you name it. The 20% is for us, the design work, or it's for a lawyer, it's in the courtroom, right? It's that 20% is what you live for. Now, you want to try to swing it over the years. Get it 30-70, get it 40-60. But I think in answer to your question, Cheryl, if you're going to run your own business, you just need to be prepared to run a business.
Yeah.
Right? That's a big part of it. And it can be fun if you frame it right and you're up for the challenge and you're in it for the long run. None of it's easy. None of it's a big idea. It's a grind.
Well, and I'm sure you've all experienced peers and colleagues that are extremely talented, but they just don't want to address the business side, and they're not as successful as they could be.
And we all have a tendency to avoid what we're not comfortable with, right? And I think everyone needs to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And so those things that you're not an expert in, it's okay to go out there and invest yourself in, learn. There are tons of tools out there, videos galore on YouTube, right, about things and basic things that you can teach yourself. We've got ChatGPT and all of these new tools and technologies at our fingertips. I would encourage everybody to go out there and try to learn about the basics and invest yourself.
Yeah. And leadership can often be very lonely, but having a network and a group of peers that you can connect with and consult with. I mean, the four of you all know one another. There's a lot of history here, but having someone as a sounding board also is really critical to leadership and leading a business, particularly in this industry.
Well, along those lines, that's where Leaders of Design came from.
Yeah.
Is the ability to create a community of like-minded people that could share leadership, business, inspiration with each other.
That was a setup to give you an opportunity for that shameless plug. So there you go. And I can do one for IIDA too. Belong to an organization that is going to support you in all aspects of your life, personal and professional. So what additional skills are important for business owners these days? We talked about a few resources, where to look for information, but what resources or infrastructure should all owners have in place? Keith, do you want to start us out?
Well, I just think great systems that allow you to have knowledge about how you run your business. So, financial meetings and budgets and people who look at the success of their practice based upon real data, know what they're doing and know how to change it, and they can see trends that are happening and make adjustments to it. And if you're not in tune to that, I can tell you, if you sort of walked around the fair and asked designers, how often do you look at your financials? You'd be shocked. They trust people, which is fine, but they should have knowledge of that. And I think making sure you have a regular pattern of reviewing the state of your company. We create something called an executive summary for our clients, that within one page you can see the success or not of what that month looked like. Yeah. And we chart it out and graph it because they're visual people, but giving them the tools to really run their business in a way that they can absorb and make changes.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you for that. Louis?
I think you don't have to be an expert in every aspect of the business. I think it's having enough knowledge to understand what's going on. And I think, as Tom said, it's surrounding yourself with a lot of great consultants and people who are knowledgeable about what you do and what it is that you need guidance. Keith always talks about hiring your weaknesses, right? We all know what our strengths are, but you need to surround yourself with people who can help fill those gaps and make you better at what you do. And in my firm, I like to talk to all of our team about highest and best use. And I think everybody should always be focusing on what's your highest and best use, and how can you empower the people around you to take things off of your plate that can enable you to work at your best.
Yeah, my approach has always been to kind of make sure I was sitting next to the smartest people in the room so that I could learn from them. And I think every young business owner needs to understand that they need to understand the value of consultants. You need someone who really understands and can help you learn how to manage a business. You really need someone in finance, and you really need someone in public relations and marketing to create a sound kind of foundation.
Yeah.
And all of that, amazingly, is now available online too. There are so many distilled versions of those products that are actually quite affordable to someone who's just starting out. Yeah. For me, I had to take a gulp and hire, actual people, including Keith, to help me figure out how to create a foundation. Now much of that is actually available even in AI-assisted form, and it's really an amazing time for that.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about business skills and people skills. And my mom always used to say that work is easy, people are hard, right? And we're in the business of people. Design is about people. And let's talk about the people that you work with. Louis, let me ask you about how do we recruit and retain excellent staff?
Well, for us, we want to focus on, first and foremost, hiring talented people. We all do, right? But I think it's really important to remember that you're with these people that you're going to be working with more hours in a day than you are with your family, friends, and loved ones. And so they need to be interesting, fun, inspiring. And so you have to hire slow, which is really important, as Keith and we all talk about all the time. Finding the right people and team is really important, because one bad apple can really cause a lot of problems within the culture of the firm. As far as retaining, we go on campus and recruit for junior staff coming out of school. And one of the things I do ahead of that is I always like to look back at our offering of what value proposition we have for these people coming out of school. And I review mentally our benefits, things that we do as a company, fun activities outside the offices, and the little things. And I say to myself, if these students go home, or if my children, I wouldn't be telling them, and my offering isn't.
We talked a little bit before the program started about training and investing in your staff. What kinds of areas are you finding where you're needing to do the most training for your team?
Well, the students coming out of school are really focused on theoretical things in the world that they're learning on campus. They're not really ready right out of the gate for the real world. And I don't know if you guys are seeing that as well, but they need a lot of on-the-job training to get the skill sets that they're going to need in the real world. Their people skills are a little bit lacking because it's all day long like this behind the keyboard, texting. We're trying to teach them how to interact with clients, how to write professional emails that communicate and ask for timelines for follow-up and deliverables, and those are the kind of things that really aren't coming across on campus right now.
Right.
And so we're putting in place training within our office, and we're empowering some of our people that have 2, 3, and 4 years to create programs to empower them that maybe they're not getting a promotion right away, but they feel empowered and invested in the company because we're giving them opportunities to show what they've learned. And we've had really good success with that.
Yeah. So those people skills, those soft skills around empathy and emotional intelligence, students live in a super conceptual world when they're in design school, so closing that gap between what's conceptual and what's real, presentation skills, how to make eye contact, put your phone down and look at me.
One of the things I like to talk about is, and we all know you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So you should listen twice as much as we talk. I'm not always the best at that, to be honest. But what I've learned through the years trying to be more empathetic with our team is you have to listen. You have to listen to your team. You have to listen to your clients. You have to listen to your vendors and your consultants. And you're being pulled in all these directions. And you should listen to these people, because I think sometimes as business owners or people with egos, we start to not always listen to the people around us because we may know better than everyone else, or we think we do. And I think it's important to step back and digest what we hear and reevaluate sometimes.
Right. Listening is a core competency of a good designer. Let's talk a little bit about messaging. Storytelling is so crucial to good design and good business. How can owners go about crafting a powerful brand identity and effectively communicating their story to potential clients? Grant?
Well, one of the things I think that we did successfully in the beginning of our business was to make it more than just about the work. Make it about a vision or an idea that was bigger than a single person. And we happened to, through a number of different iterations, come to the fact that we deeply believe that design elevates the human spirit. And we practice that through mostly homes. We do domestic architecture, so it's obviously highly relevant. And I think once we really focused and sort of almost preached that vision, then there was a rallying cry. And I think over the years and now decades, our staff has really become a team, something that has been focused around a vision that's higher than any one person, or it's higher than a design award or a magazine cover or a new commission. It's about driving toward a collective vision.
That's perfect.
I remember those days when you were coming up with that, and you kept on saying, no, we got to go bigger, we got to go higher. It's not about the work. It's really about what the impact is that we're going to have. And that's where those words came from.
Yeah, that was an exercise. I remember that, Keith. We called it the 5 whys. So when you ask yourself, okay, why do we do what we do? And you have an answer. Say, okay, well, we do what we do because it's exciting. We love to design. Well, why is that exciting? And you do that 5 times, and you eventually get to that vision.
That's great. That's great. The 5 whys. I love that. Tom, what about storytelling and messaging for you and your firm?
Well, I think storytelling is probably the most important thing we do as designers, right? I mean, not just the messaging around our own business, but ultimately we're telling the story of our clients' lives. And I got lucky really early. My first publicist was Tamar Mishigian. And at the time, I was starting to travel a lot with clients, and I was kind of keeping it under wraps because I wanted to be known as a hardworking designer, not the sybarite that I actually am. And she came to me and she said, this is a mistake. You need to talk about those experiences and make them an extended part of your work. And actually, that's the message that we still carry today, about adventure being a really core value in our organization. And what I found is that by putting my personal values out there as a part of the business value set, I've attracted people that are like me, that are kindred spirits. And now I have big clients coming to me saying, you're going to get us because we get you. Like, we understand the things that are important to you. And there's an interesting opportunity to kind of cross over from the personal to the professional and then back again.
Yeah.
By telling a story that's actually true to who you are, as opposed to one that has been concocted and that you wear like an outfit.
Right. And people can spot an inauthentic story.
Absolutely.
I think, very quickly.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's this exercise about inquiry and advocacy. And the whole purpose of it is that you inquire about what your clients' needs are before you advocate for yourself. Because if you try to sell who you are and not knowing what they want, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah.
So you really need to know. So once you can figure out why a client is thinking about you, then you can go, oh, here's a project that I think you'll connect to. But if you don't do that from the beginning, then you're flying blind as to whether you're going to meet their needs.
Yeah. I loved that phrase that Tom used, kindred spirits, right? Tied directly to, we feel an affinity towards someone, a kinship. And design also is predicated on trust. And whether it's your staff or whether it's a client, having that inherent trust in you is tantamount to success in design. You have to build that trust, and that comes from that kinship, being accountable for sure, but understanding the quality of that emotion between a designer and a client is critical.
It's something that we spend a lot of time talking to the rest of the people in our firm about, having them understand that what is the fundamental that's led to our firm's success is that trust. I'm now working on my third generation of 3 major families that put us in business. The reason why the young folks that I'm working with today, I was actually their grandmother's decorator, which is insane. Wow. But the reason, how they find me valid, or it blows me away. I don't understand it. But there's this huge level of trust between their family and our organization. And everything that we do has to lead with what enhances that level of trust. That can never be denigrated, or we lose the client, we lose the business.
Yeah. And design is not just transactional. The spaces that designers are creating embody a family. I'm thinking of your 3 generations. It's a family's culture. It's their life. It's their story. And it's a tremendous effort and amount to trust someone with telling your story. So kudos to you for 3 generations. So we talked a little bit about legacy and the 3 generations. What about the future? What about future planning? What are some steps that...
I own studios that has $5 billion worth of product through the software. And AI scares the shit out of us, to be honest. And it should.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a great tool, and it will take some jobs away. It'll create other jobs, as anything has. But it's something that if you don't get on top of, you're going to be left in the dark. And there's going to be somebody who's going to embrace that in a big way. So we're looking at it as, how do we use those tools to enhance what we already have? But the future of that is still so unknown. I mean, it's just literally incredible what you can simply do through ChatGPT, right? I mean, and it's a tool that gets you 60% of the way there. Of course, we can see when people write and there's a dash and there's something highlighted that, oh, they got it out of ChatGPT, but it doesn't disqualify it for what it is. Right. It's really helping you think and communicate in a much stronger way. And I think that's probably our biggest challenge moving forward.
Yeah. It's a powerful tool, and using it wisely, having some command and control over it. It also helps alleviate, I think, a lot of the fear that people have around it as well, but it can certainly alleviate a lot of mundane tasks that take up a lot of your time, administrative tasks for sure, but understanding how to use it, we're not moving away from it. So embracing it and understanding how it works best for you would be key. Tom, what about future-proofing? Thoughts on that for you?
Well, other than AI, which we're embracing as quickly as we can, and encouraging our staff to use it in small ways that alleviate the boredom, the boring administrative part of their job, and allowing it to create more space for creativity. From a business perspective, we're also looking at, I've come around to understanding that finding and retaining the best talent is really my primary goal for survival, and we're spending an extraordinary amount of time developing a workspace that is survivable through ups and downs, and also creating a really great set of benefits for our employees so that they'll stay. Institutional knowledge is the key for any long-term business, and getting people to come and stay is the key to that, right? If everybody's new, nobody knows the history of those families that have made our company what it is today. So whether it is sabbatical programs, the kind of employee benefits that I never would have thought possible years ago, now we're fully invested in. And then we're also looking at new business lines, which is, do we push into art advisory? We've recently hired some very talented young architects who I've had to open my mind and say, well, you know what, if every potential new employee is also a potential new business partner, if we've got strong architects in our firm, why do we have to be an interiors firm forever? Maybe we morph and start offering architectural practice. I mean, who needs Grant? Come on, you know.
That gives me an idea about interiors.
But I would never take your job. But our art advisory is another area that we're looking at.
Absolutely.
You know, that's a tough one, but we're actually looking at onboarding someone who could do that for us as well. So. Design
as a profession and as an industry has become so multidisciplinary. And I'm not just talking about your skills as marriage and family therapists. That will always be a core competency. But I know that for whether it is residential or healthcare or hospitality or retail, you name it, clients are expecting more of you. They're expecting a broader, wider skill set. There are things that clients are probably asking you for now that they weren't asking for you a decade ago or 20 years ago. And so expanding your competencies and your skill sets is critical for survival. One area, there's a client in Chicago, I was talking to a designer, and she had started working with them as a family, but it had expanded to a museum and a cultural institution, and she had asked her firm to do the organization and event planning for an opening. And so bringing that sensibility, which is enhanced project management, but bringing those other sensibilities to the work that you do will be critical, and it's so critical for design students to know and understand that as much as design is a specialty, having a liberal arts background is also helpful, knowing how to do a multitude of things. I've always said, someone asked me, are designers generalists? And my response is, designers are serial specialists. That given the project, given the moment that you're in, being so immersed in that, but keeping your brain broad and your mind open is critical to success in this industry. So we talked about how design is evolving so rapidly as we are as a culture and society. What advice would you all give to firm owners to help them stay agile, resilient, and resourceful, right? We know the expression, we're living in volatile times. How do you stay agile and resourceful and current? Grant?
Well, I think, I have a thought about a number of things you've just talked about, ranging from involvement in organizations to future-proofing your business. And I think that really what we don't want to do is, AI is interesting, technology has always evolved. We've gone from literally drawing on paper to not even drawing lines. We're just modeling now. We're not drawing. It's really strange, right? We're computer modeling. And things are going to continue to evolve. What I think is important about future-proofing is to actually not forgetting the past. For instance, we talked about being involved in organizations, really, really important. But we hear this word a lot, mentoring. It's really important. I consider a huge part of my success in my career to have had a couple of very strategic mentors, both personal and professional. A couple of architects that I still touch base with today, they're well into their 80s, have been hugely instrumental for me in the formulation of my business as well as the evolution of my business to understand. In fact, recently I took a couple of them out and said, what would the 80-year-old you tell the 60-year-old you 20 years ago? And we had this great conversation. It was incredibly enlightening. So, and we're right now in our office going through a revision of our own internal mentoring program, right? We just talked about it yesterday. We had a full leadership staff meeting about what does it mean today to mentor our younger staff. Well, what does it mean today to mentor the leaders in our firm?
Right.
And how do we take it upon ourselves to ensure that we ask those people that we admire to spend some time with us? You'd be surprised. You're like, oh gosh, they're so busy. No, they actually want to do it. They really do. I mean, I know at this stage of my career, almost 40 years into our business, that I truly enjoy mentoring people that are starting their businesses or are in mid-career and want to learn some things. It's extremely gratifying to be able to pass those things along. And to Tom's point earlier, we're resolvers, right? We're creative folks. We think we can solve every issue, but I think they know what they're doing. Something years ago relied on his expertise in his arena. And we've managed to do that with other folk. We've also managed not to expand beyond our really core capacity. What were we put on earth here to do? Be an architect. People ask me all the time, how come you don't build your homes? I'm like, oh, can you imagine being a contractor? I mean, no thank you. And why don't you do the interiors? Well, I got Tom to do the interiors, even though he doesn't want to do that for us right now. But, really stay focused and rely on mentors. Have long-term relationships with people that you admire. Don't be afraid to ask them to spend a lunch with you or give them a call when you have an issue. That is, they're willing to do it. It's a rare, successful person in the business who wouldn't be willing to spend time with you. And do it personally too. Do it as a mother, do it as a father, do it as, someone who's eager to be better in life.
Well, and I'm also asked a lot to create mentorship programs, and what I usually say is you can't force it.
Right.
It should be part of your culture.
Yeah.
So if you allow for mentorship to be the way you exist, then you're going to be more successful than trying to say, every Tuesday we're going to meet and talk about something. It just doesn't ever work that way.
Right. Yeah. Brilliant advice around mentorship. We need mentors at all ages and stages of our careers. Sometimes it's formal, sometimes it's informal, sometimes you may appreciate the way that someone does business or the way they conduct themselves in public or the way they do presentations. It doesn't have to be an entire life. There could be something very specific about someone that attracts you to them as a mentor. And you don't have to be weird and stalkery about it either.
And I think mentorship comes in. It's weird. It's talky. It's hilarious.
Cue Tom weird.
I think mentorship also comes in so many forms, and maybe we also call mentorship learning.
Yeah.
Because for me, some of my best mentors are the younger staff members, right? It bubbles up too. Like young people have a tremendous amount of savvy to be taught to me, and I think it comes from mentorship can also be purchased.
Yes.
Right? In the sense that a good consultant you can learn an extraordinary amount from. Right. And as long as you're willing to be there at the table to learn, you can really derive so much value out of just bringing a few people into your organization to give you perspective that you don't have, and then to teach you the craft, those elements that you don't really understand in any depth.
I'm going to call you out on something that this was probably 25 years ago, and we were going through an org chart, and you were telling the staff, this is how you can grow. And probably the only person on this chart that won't grow is me. And I said to you, don't ever say that again, because you don't know what your life will look like as you're growing and constantly evolving. And look how much change there's been since that day. So I think we all have to embrace learning. You know, I have friends and colleagues that give me, you know, memes and, you know, inspirational quotes all the time, and it makes my day because I'm learning something new every day.
Shout out for lifelong learning.
I remember
Absolutely.
that. I remember that
You do that?
distinctly.
Yeah.
And I think Tom's point is excellent. You mentor up and you mentor down.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I think you should also be thinking about finding your successor, right? That's another thing that a
Succession
lot of
planning,
us,
absolutely.
we see our aging population and what's going on in the world right now. Well, if you're not looking for your successor, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, right? We all are trying to think about those kind of things, and it's a hot topic in the industry right now. And I'm excited. I look at things you might be scared about as opportunities, and we talked about that a little earlier. And so I think the next generation of people up and coming is really exciting to see what they'll bring to the industry. And it's our job to kind of usher them forward and help to put them at the forefront.
Yeah. This was such a great conversation around mentorship. I also want to make sure that we don't forget about sponsorship. Those people who are sponsors to us who will speak our names in rooms that we aren't in yet. Right? Or help us get that seat at the table we may not have yet. And so make sure that amongst your peers and colleagues, you have both mentors and sponsors. Super important to moving ahead. Tom, let me ask you this. We touched on it a little bit. How can we all just stay more relevant and more current as business owners? And are there things that you depend on that you would recommend to the audience? And I'm going to kind of segment the audience a little bit, maybe also to students as well, and to new and emerging designers. At different points in life, we need different resources. And I'd love for you to talk about that a bit.
Well, I think there's so many organizations out there that you can attach yourself to, whether you're beginning, whether you're in the middle, or whether you're at the top of your career. And there are organizations, I think, for every tier. But IIDA, ASID are incredibly powerful tools, especially for young designers. Community and understanding and creating relationships to peers is really, really critical, I think, to professional success. And then as one kind of moves on into their career, organizations like Leaders of Design, Design Leadership Network, excellent ways for practitioners to then develop lasting long-term relationships with their peers in a way that's really, really important. Actually, none of us would know each other without having met at the Leaders of Design. And we're all working together in various ways. My office shares ideas with Lou's office in New York, and we send staff back and forth occasionally to learn from what each other's doing. We're working on a project in Beverly Hills right now that we would not know each other outside of that organization. So it's not just an opportunity for mentorship, but also an opportunity for business development.
And I think that's when I said earlier that this was the best decision of my life to come into this industry. I wasn't kidding, because the camaraderie, the friendship, and the ability of people to want to share and help others is really unique. You do not see this in most industries. I come from the finance world where you would step on someone else just to make a few extra dollars if you could. That is not the case here. The collegiality is just amazing, and I'm so lucky to have these guys and to lean on you. And we do pick the phone up and call one another when you have questions. I would encourage everyone out there, find people in your area, reach out to someone, even if it's sending an email to someone that you admire out of the blue to compliment their work and say, I love what you do, I think you're so inspiring, and I'd love to connect with you. Would you be open to that? I bet you'd be pretty successful if you did actually try that.
Great. Were you going to jump in?
No.
Okay. I have one last question before I open it up to the audience for questions. Design is so predicated in joy and in optimism and in comfort. I would like to ask each of the panelists, what's exciting you right now? What is making you optimistic right now? What things are you seeing, whether it's at this show or out in the world, that give you insight into joy and comfort and optimism in design? Who wants to start?
Yeah, sure, I'll go. So fortunately, a number of things.
Good.
But I'd have to say, for purposes of brevity in this forum, I think there's a lot of negativity, obviously, in the world right now. And I think a perspective shift is due. And what I mean by that, and it's relevant to us as designers, as visionaries, there's an argument that this is actually the finest time in the history of human beings, almost any, or any number of things. But it barrages us in ways where it seems like things are worse than they have been. And I don't think that's the case. And I think it's important that as designers, we bring a sense of optimism to where things really are. There's a terrific book called Factfulness, and if anybody's interested, it's a book that actually went around the world, the authors, and did studies about societies in all different metrics and levels. And it's hard to find a metric in the world today that isn't better than it used to be. Hunger, famine, disease, believe it or not, even war. And so if you look at this, there was a time, a Renaissance time, a couple hundred years, where I don't think people really sat around and said, hey, this is an enlightenment, this is really great. It was later that somebody named it a Renaissance. I'd hate to think we're all sitting around and our grandchildren one day are going, my God, my grandfolks lived in the middle of the new Renaissance. Because I think we are. And I think we need to bring that to our clients, to our work, and let this work that we do, which does provide a true sense of optimism for understandably a limited few, but to bring it and proliferate, to advocate for the importance of great design and what it means to this world. A lot of cultures they prize it more than we do here in Western culture. But I think that's changing, and I'm hopeful that this is the group that leads it, quite frankly.
That was a very hopeful message. Thank you for that. Anybody else? What's keeping you optimistic, and what are you optimistic about?
Well, someone once called me a serial entrepreneur, and I said, well, you should be lucky about that because I like to create things. Running 4 different businesses is not easy. But it's exciting. It's just like it's always looking for something that can change the world or can change somebody's life and for the better. And so, I have this store in Malibu called Fred Siegel Home, and people are like, why did you do that? And I was like, it felt right to bring back something that, was unique and exploratory versus just the same old that you see everywhere else in the world. And so whether it's a software company or my consulting practice or the store, every day is a new day. And that makes me get up every morning. So it's exciting. And I think the times are exciting. And I agree with you. There's too much negativity out there. And we just have to sort of plow through it. And the problem is that we don't know what's real anymore.
Right. That's true.
And I think, like you're saying, finding the truth is what will free you from that. But, things like social media is not exactly, it's a blessing and a curse.
Right. A great and terrible thing. You are right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tom?
I'm an eternal optimist, and that doesn't fade. I'm also an early adopter and kind of a technology geek. And what makes me so excited right now is I think we are finally at the edge of being able to show clients exactly the movie that's in our head. And that's always been the challenge as a designer to, when we're designing an interior or a piece of architecture, we see it in full color, in 3 dimensions, in all of its varied textures and nuances, the way a light is going to move through a room, the way shade and shadow affects surface. We see it all.
Yeah.
And you can't ever show a client that's in your head. Now AI and now technology are allowing us to make movies and to let clients walk through these environments before they ever exist. And I think that's extraordinary, and it's really something to be really, really excited about.
That's great. Louis?
I think I'm excited about where our clients and our collaborators are pushing us to go with our designs and what we offer to them. And I say that because we're not very far removed from coming out of the pandemic, and never before have people been so keenly aware of how we live, the places we surround ourselves in, and what we want from those places and how we live. And so people are thinking about design, the places we live, places we travel, and I think it's really an opportunity for us to all push ourselves to new levels, because we've seen our clients really demand a lot more, and it's pushed us to new heights as a firm. And I think that's made us much better in our offering of what we're doing for clients. And I'm excited about where that's going to take us over the next few years.
That's fantastic. 4 incredible notes of optimism from industry legends right here on the stage. Josh, do we have time for questions? Fantastic.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
Any questions for the panel?
Oh, come on. Who's going to be first? There we go.
Hi, that was great, very inspirational, which is, I think, something we all need. Going back to the very beginning of when you all started your firms, how did you know, or what was it that maybe inspired you all to even get started or create your firm in the first place? What pushed you to creating your firm?
I kind of started my firm out of negative experience, honestly. Worked for a really good design organization that shall remain nameless for these purposes.
Oh, come on.
But honestly, I saw an opportunity, right? I saw an opportunity to value employees. I saw an opportunity to run a really well-run business from an administration and from a financial perspective. And I basically set out to create an organization that was the opposite of what I saw as the model, which was hire young people, pay them very little. If they want to make more money or they want to advance, they have to hang out their own shingle. I saw that as a waste of human capital. And that's really what spurred me to do my own business, was to do it differently. And to do it in a way that I thought would make me feel good, but also be of lasting importance to my clients.
For me, I had left Gensler and I was running a 60-person architectural firm in San Diego. And the economy had finally sort of hit California in 1991, and people would call and say, how do we survive? And I was like, well, if you pay me, I'll tell you. But I realized there was a huge need to helping people run design practices, and so that triggered taking that leap of faith.
Yeah, I think my answer to your question is I probably always knew that I was going to end up running my own business. But I had a negative mentor my first job out of college. Speaking of mentors, it was not someone who I ended up admiring or wanted to operate a business in that way. And that was very motivating. So an opportunity came along that I had generated that my boss didn't want to take on. And it almost, I'm going to say, forced me into leaving and working on that project, which started the business. So it was a little bit of happenstance, but probably a little bit of breadcrumb there as well.
And you were very young.
Well, clearly, yeah.
And for me, I didn't actually start my own firm, but I joined a firm that after the crisis of '08, and the firm was down to 4 people. And so I was excited about jumping on the ship that had just hit the iceberg, right? And so that was exciting to me. But I think the key is it's always going to be scary. I'm sure just tell you.
Hi, all.
Hello, Dan.
Hello, Grant.
Uh-oh.
Well, first of all, thank you. This is all incredibly inspiring, and I really appreciate you guys making time for this. My question is a follow-up. You guys had a conversation about the importance of mentorship, both going kind of...
Hey, Dan, sorry, can you speak up a little bit?
Sure. You guys had spoken about the importance of mentorship and how, it kind of goes both up and down. And then you also brought up the idea of sponsorship. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that concept specifically, and basically how you take advantage of it, or how that would kind of unfold for somebody starting a new firm.
I had tossed in that notion of sponsorship, and that is, right, it's not a hierarchy above mentorship, because very often a mentor can turn into a sponsor, and it's finding that person who is going to promote you, who is going to, in a room full of opportunities, say your name and know that you are right for those opportunities. And so you almost have to cultivate your sponsors as well, but it's, kind of minding your mentors and knowing the ones who will be in places where they can spot opportunities that are right for you, right? You don't want it to fall on random ground, or you don't want random mentions of you, but knowing when an opportunity is right for you. You may not be in that place to recognize that opportunity, but a true sponsor will. And so it's not a passive act on your part. It is actively cultivating sponsors as well as mentors.
Well, and I would say that the best sponsor is a happy client.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
referral is
Well,
the key.
and word of mouth is sponsorship.
Yeah.
And Cheryl, I think you also mean it's a champion for
It's
you.
a champion for sure.
Right.
An ally, a
But
champion.
having
yeah.
clients that are champions is magic.
Yeah.
And it takes years to build those relationships with the clients, and one bad moment can ruin that
Can lose it.
relationship too.
For
So that's
sure.
really important to always remember.
I think
sure.
even when we have to give clients really bad news, when the client always understands that we have their best interests at heart and that they come before us in terms of results, then you get sponsors.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm really glad you asked that question, because I had no idea what she meant. And now I do. And now I'm inspired.
There you go. Always learning.
Always.
There you go.
Up and down.
Anyone else? Hey, so forgive me. I actually had a question because I stepped out for a minute, and I don't know if you guys covered this, so forgive me if you did. But did you talk about how you work with newer designers to advocate for themselves? In other words, we have such a there's a discrepancy in generations right now. If my kids didn't tell me what 6'7" meant, I would not know. But there's a different language.
nothing.
There's a different vibe, right? How do you teach younger designers to advocate for themselves so that they can ask for what they want without feeling like they're asking for something that they don't deserve?
Well, right now we're subbing it out. Actually, I went through 2 years of executive coaching, as did my two business partners, and it was such a cathartic opportunity and an exercise for me that now we're offering executive coaching to every employee, and it's basically therapy, and it's just with a different area of focus, and we found it's been really effective in if nothing else in helping our employees learn how to effectively communicate with each other in a professional setting, but probably most importantly, understand how to communicate with the other professionals we work with and our clients. That's been really an extraordinary opportunity, and we've gotten, I think we have 5 slots in 3-month running segments with a therapist now that works with us, is contracted with us, and I think we've had 4 classes now graduate from that. And virtually everybody that works for me has signed up. It's been really enormously popular.
I would also say that setting an example. So if you have employees that take initiative and show their growth, put that out front there. Let people see that if I do this, this is what can happen, and make them a star in your organization, and others the right people will follow.
Yeah, I've got 2 thoughts on that, Josh. One would be that one of the key attributes of a great designer is confidence. And it doesn't matter whether you're at this level, this level, this level. You've got clients who are possibly doing the greatest, non-discretionary spending endeavor of their life, right? And they're putting it in the designer's hands. And if you're not oozing confidence with how that's being quarterbacked, they're nervous. And so confidence is something that can be learned, but it's also something that a great designer has inherently. And it builds. But I think that's important. I also think that for people that are coming up in the profession and in our offices or on their own, what I said earlier about having a vision that's bigger than yourself, have a point of view, have a design point of view. It could be. I'm a naturalist. All of my work revolves around a connection to nature, or it could be, I'm a classicist. I've studied Palladio, and I believe that the symmetry is the force within us. Whatever it is, develop an authentic point of view, an authentic point of view. And do it with confidence, and you won't have to be out there pounding on doors. People will knock on yours.
I just want to add, there's an expression that I came up with during a retreat where I believe that fear is a weakness and vulnerability is a strength. And if you make yourself vulnerable, you're going to grow. But if you're fearful, it comes through and it stifles you. Yeah.
Well, Keith, Grant, Tom, and Lewis, thank you so much for sharing your insight and your candor and your honesty and your expertise with us. And to the audience, thank you for the privilege of your time and your attention for this program. Josh?
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, can we brief hand for this incredible panel? Thank you all very much for taking the time and the willingness to do this. That's really important, and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you for listening to this episode of WestEdge Wednesdays on Convo by Design. Please, if you enjoyed this, and I hope you did, make sure that you are subscribing to Convo by Design so you receive every new episode to your feed automatically when it's published. Thank you again to Cheryl and this incredible panel of Keith, Grant, Tom, Lou. Amazing. So appreciative for your time and input. Thank you to Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home for your sponsorship and presentation of these encore presentations of the panels. Thank you, Kim Gordon Designs, for your incredible design work at WestEdge. So, another one in the books. How about that? Looking forward to the next one. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you subscribe. Thanks for listening. See you next time.